Hello everyone, welcome to our talk show, the Rajendra Mehta Show. And today we have our guest, Mr. Divesh. A warm welcome to you, Mr. Divesh.
Thanks, Rajendra. Thanks for the welcome. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much, Divesh, to be here and guiding the people. So, as all of today's our topic is more inclined towards the building a career as a data engineer. So let's understand from our expert that what he's having in mind or what he's experience, how you can migrate your career into data engineering as well. So starting with the introduction part. So Divesh, it would be a great help you if you can give your introduction.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Divesh Gaonkar. I'm born and brought up in Mumbai. I have got 10 years of experience in the field of BI analytics. I've completed my bachelor's in engineering from Mumbai University in electronics and telecommunication. Uh, Post that, I was placed in Patni Computers or iGate for that matter. So I was fortunate enough, I would say, that I was placed in a batch uh, for the BI workflow, if you could say that. And I have been with, I mean, I was with the iGate Patni Capgemini for about 8 years, so from 2011 to 2019. So most of my learning has been during my days with Patni, iGate, and Capgemini. Post that, I've hopped onto two companies. One is eClerx,
Mm-hmm.
and the last company that I was with was Tech Mahindra. So currently, I am working as a data architect with Visual BI, which is a niche cloud data analytics, data engineering company only. Okay, so we are basically into the data engineering front, predominantly on Snowflake, uh, Azure, a little bit of Google, and very less of AWS. We'll probably walk over what those terminologies mean in this session. To start off with, I actually joined iGate as a trainee. So we were kind of given basic overviews of what BI is. Back then in 2011, it was more of BI, so we didn't have these terminologies called data engineering or data science as much. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
back then it was more of traditional RDBMS systems which were being used across the industry for their data needs. Down the line, as I mean, data grew, those kind of systems became obsolete day by day, and then we had the invent or the boom of big data,
Mm-hmm.
and then came cloud, and then things kind of moved over from on premise to cloud. So it's kind of been kind of a journey for me in the last 10 years to see things being rapidly moved from your traditional RDBMS system, which were on premise. Then from there, we had the big data boom for a couple of years, wherein we had on premise big data technologies, and then everything moved on to AWS, Microsoft. Basically, AWS changed the whole game altogether.
Right.
Microsoft and Google came in at a later point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Even today, the uh, what do you say? The market leader is AWS by a big margin. So I kind of started my journey in cloud in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
I worked on AWS for about 2.5 years. It was more of from an end-to-end data warehousing implementation, wherein we used AWS technologies, predominantly Redshift, which is their MPP database, for moving one of our clients' data warehouse from on-premise SQL Server onto data warehouse. Right now, I have kind of it's been more of a learning curve for me, because from 2016 onwards, I kind of wasn't on a platform which was, or wasn't on a project which was cloud centric. It was more of on-premise centric. So from 2016 to 2019 or 2020, I would say there have been a lot of new things that have come up. Okay, within the industry. So with AWS, with Databricks, with Azure, with your Google. So everyone has their own play on data engineering, data science, machine learning, ML ops,
Mm-hmm.
so on and so forth. And it's for me, it's been over the last a year and so. It's been more of a learning curve. Wherein right now I'm currently learning Azure Databricks, so Snowflake. So since cloud is the future, hopefully for the next
Right.
15-20 years, and things come up every say 6 months, 4 months, 2 months, every few months there is a new thing that is being launched by every cloud provider.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's a challenge. I mean, it's something which most of the people like. I mean, uh, learning new technology. I wouldn't say technologies because the basis is the same. It's still
Right.
data warehouse. It's still SQL,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just what wrapper the three big cloud providers provide on top of that to make life easy for a data engineer or a data architect per se. Okay. So that is pretty much it from my journey in the field of data engineering. I started off with the visualization front,
Uh-huh.
wherein it was SAP BO, then moved on to the traditional ETL with Informatica. You must have heard Informatica is
Right.
one of the biggest ETL tools out there, right? So from there, it's been predominantly in the ETL space, then to AWS, then now onto Snowflake and Azure. So that's pretty much it.
That's a great journey. Great to hear that you come up with so many companies, so many roles, and then landed up with, I would say, into Azure, right, in the
Yeah,
cloud computing. So nowadays, cloud computing, data engineering, this is quite a hot in demand, booming factor or carrier. Somebody wanted to have it, right? So,
yeah,
Divesh, according to you, what kind of skill set a learner can have it, because a lot of people they are starting their career, right? So
yeah,
previously they were more inclined towards, I'm not saying that data science is not that much aggressively working, but of course you said rightly cloud is gonna be the future. So
yeah,
if they wanted to integrate or they wanted to start learning, what
yeah.
would be your suggestion on that? What skill set they should have it, and how they can grab those skill sets so they would be, you know, will be there compared to the market demands, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say first keep cloud aside. That is what I would say. Prior to so if you are I mean, first of all, what I would suggest is rather than jumping on the hype train, try and understand what data engineering is. Is it suitable for you? Is it something that you want to do?
Okay.
Okay, or else if you are much more comfortable with the hard code coding, and if you want to go with the front end, or if you want to go with the data sciences or machine learning,
Uh-huh.
I would say first, take a pause, take a break, uh, do a thorough analysis on all the hot topics right now.
Okay.
Okay, and try and assess yourself as to what would be the best approach for you. If you think that yes, I want to go into data engineering, well and good. The first thing I would say, do not touch any cloud technologies for the first 2 to 3 months. The
Okay.
first thing that you should do is learn SQL.
Okay.
No matter which cloud technology, no matter which tool you work on with, until and unless you understand SQL, it's very difficult for you to understand what is happening in the background. See, tools, technologies, what they do is they kind of give you an GUI or a GUI, graphical user interface, which
Mm-hmm.
makes your life as a developer easy. So I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example of Azure Data Factory. Okay, it's an
Uh-huh.
ETL tool. When I say ETL tool, it's a tool that extracts data from source A or from a system A, transform it. There are two terminologies, ETL and ELT. We can come to that later, but more or less both of them work on the same principle.
Mm-hmm.
So you extract the data, you kind of transform it, or you first load it and then transform it. So the way it works is it kind of gives you a drag and drop utility. So
Mm-hmm.
for example, if you have say a customer data from one of your source systems. Okay, so if you're a telecom provider, you have your customers in a database, you want to kind of and you have multiple line of businesses, say postpaid, prepaid, fixed line. So every system will have its own way of storing in customer. So if you want to kind of create a unified data model or a unified data storage, which in the real world we call it as a data lake or a data warehouse.
Mhm.
I mean, those are both of them are mutually exclusive. But I mean, to start off with, you can think that okay, both of them are same, but there are different aspects to it. We won't go into that because that's a very long discussion on its own.
Okay.
So I mean, in traditional world, when the cloud technologies were kind of very nascent, okay,
Mhm.
things weren't that developed. What we used to do is we used to have an on-premise system, say Informatica or Talent or any other retail tool, which would connect to these sources,
Okay.
okay, extract the required information from them, okay, and either directly store it in your data warehouse or merge those data sets and store it in a data warehouse. So those are two different ways of kind of moving on with your data lake or a data warehouse implementation. Okay, so with the invent of say ETL tools, say on premise or cloud, what happened was they kind of do the integration for you. They kind of create SQL in the backend,
Okay.
okay, to integrate those systems and kind of load the data for you. So what you get is a beautiful GUI, which according to most of us, I mean, what I would say is not many of us try and understand what is happening in the backend. So what basically happens in the backend is if you have five different sources, if you
Mhm.
want to integrate those five different sources and store the data in one single database, you basically are joining those five different sources. Okay, so at the back end as well, no matter which tool you use, one way or the either way, you are doing SQL. So the first and the foremost thing that you should learn is SQL. You don't
Okay.
have to be a champ on it, because uh, it's a technology which you will, I mean, or it's a language which you will get accustomed to, which you will get comfortable to as and when you start working on a day-to-day basis. No matter which cloud technology you work with, no matter which on-premise technology, no matter which big data technology you work with,
Mhm.
you would need to know SQL. Once you have, you can take up any database you want. There are multiple free databases, I could say. If you have MySQL, you have PostgreSQL,
Mhm.
you can also install SQL Server, Oracle. Just take any database, start learning SQL. So there are a lot of courses on Udemy. There are a lot of free courses on YouTube which will help you understand what SQL is, what it does. I think for most of our, at least in Mumbai University, or at least in India, in most of our engineering curriculums, we have
Mhm.
RDBMS. If you are
Okay.
from computer engineering, you are going to have RDBMS. So you, one way or the other, if you are from computer engineering, you should have basic idea as to what, or I say computer sciences, not even computer engineering, computer sciences or computer engineering.
Mhm.
So you should learn SQL to start off with. The second thing that you should learn are your fundamentals of data warehousing.
Okay.
Okay, what is a data warehouse? Why do we need it?
Mhm.
Okay, uh, what is the process that is generally being followed? So just Google data warehouse on you just Google data warehouse on the web and you'll have n number of things available.
Okay.
Okay, again, if you want to go for a paid course, for a structured course, you can check Udemy, you can check Coursera. I think Coursera also has a few courses which kind of walk you through what a data warehouse system is.
Okay.
And then probably what you can do is, once you're comfortable with SQL, once you're comfortable with data warehouse, then you can jump onto either big data or any cloud technologies. Okay, so when I say big data has its own world, because you have different options within big data. You
Right.
have Hive, which is kind of which kind of gives you so if you are from a SQL background, if you want to start working on big data, Hive is the way to go, because it's the closest to SQL that you can get on big data. Okay, so it's I would say 90 to 95% similar to what a SQL is, but then in the back end, it does something different as compared to what a traditional RDBMS does, right? And then probably you can work with the newly minted technologies, say Spark, You can Spark has a lot of flavors. You can start with R, you can start with Scala, you can start with Python, you can start with also Java. On the tech, on the cloud front, I would say the best and the easiest, I would say, or the most user friendly, I would say, is AWS.
Okay.
Me, I am currently into Azure and Snowflake, but I'll still say prefer to go with AWS because it has 70 to 80% of the market. uh, in terms of cloud implementations, maybe data engineering, maybe ML, anywhere you go, the first and the foremost option that people or the clients go with is 9 out of 10 times.
Okay.
Sorry, 7 out of 10 times. It's AWS. Given they are not, they do not have an legacy system which is Microsoft driven. So if it's
Okay.
a legacy system that is Microsoft driven, say SSIs or SQL Server, those kind of stuff, or Power BI, those kind of stuff, then it's much easier. It's much better to go into Azure. Then you have your new technologies that have come up, say Snowflake, which is probably one of the best uh, on cloud databases for data warehousing that I think it's there currently. It's probably even a notch better than Redshift, a notch better than Synapse, uh, a notch better than the Google's version of an MPP database. I don't recollect the name right now,
Okay.
but it's one of the best. So if you want to learn a standalone application for data warehouse, Snowflake. If you want to learn the whole cloud architecture, I would say start off with AWS, then you can move on to Azure and
GCP.
GCP. Then you have Alibaba, you have IBM,
Lot
which
of.
are very 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 nascent right now. That is my understanding, because I haven't seen any implementations, or I haven't been a part of implementations of uh, of IBM or Alibaba. But yes, there are a few. That is what I've heard of. But
Mhm.
most of the implementations that we go is either AWS. On the data engineering front, you'll have AWS, and then you'll have Azure.
Mhm.
So traditionally speaking, what we used to do is we used to have a data warehouse on premise. We used to have an ETL tool. We used to have a reporting tool. So what these cloud providers did is, rather than having three different vendors or three different applications,
Mhm.
why not kind of provide one single interface which would give all the three to you. So with Azure, it is Azure Data Factory, which is your ETL. Then you have either Azure Synapses or Azure SQL DB or Azure Managed Instances. Depending upon what your use cases, you can go with any of these three databases. And then on the reporting front, you have Power BI, which is probably one of the best reporting tool out there. Even I would say better than Tableau in certain
Tableau.
aspects.
Mhm.
Yep. In terms of AWS, they started off with Glue. Sorry,
Mhm.
they started off with Redshift, which is their take on data warehousing or analytical database, which is predominantly driven out of PostgreSQL, which is
Mhm.
an open source framework. Okay, and then they kind of invented or kind of brought up what you would say Glue, which is their version of an ETL tool. Then they had Amazon QuickSight, which is their version of a reporting tool. So most of 9 out of 10 times, what you would see is right now, at least for projects that have started, say 2015, 2016 onwards, you will see these kind of technologies, if they are moved to cloud, being used, because most of them have batch processes, as we say.
Right.
So most of the processes run nightly, so these things are more than enough for for processes which are batch oriented. But there are certain instances wherein we would want to have live data. So we have streaming services. So in terms of streaming services, Apache has its world famous Kafka streaming services. Then Spark has its all own streaming service. Then Amazon has its what do you say take on it. Google has its take on it. Azure has its take on it. So if you want to kind of have what do you say stream, if you want to learn streaming, I would say start with Kafka,
Mm.
because everyone picked up from there. That's the first, or the what that is what I feel. It's the first streaming service that actually was quite good in terms of how it was supposed to work. Okay. In terms of learning, I would say first, do not spend on any course. Uh, Azure has its own learning platform.
Mm-hmm.
AWS has its own learning platform. So I don't think so it's as comprehensive as Azure,
Mm-hmm.
but I think they have sessions, free of
They
cost
have
sessions. You can,
pre-recorded
yeah,
session.
yeah, 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 yeah. You can use that. In terms of Azure, they have a proper
Like the
learning
structure,
platform.
yeah,
Yeah,
learning path there.
yeah, yeah. So if you want to start off with Azure, you can take the Azure fundamentals, wherein you will learn the basics of Azure. So what is a subscription, what is a container, so on and so forth. And if you want to kind of move into data engineering, then you have the Azure data fundamentals. Okay, and then you can kind of start learning synapses. Okay, Google, if I'm not wrong, for Google they have tie up with Coursera, so there are
Yeah,
a
they do
few
have time.
courses on, yeah, Coursera which are paid. But
Yeah,
if you are a student, I think
you
Coursera
can
does give
audit
you,
that course. I guess
yeah,
you
you
can
can
audit
audit.
that course.
I'm not so sure about audit for Google.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think you can. Yeah, I think every course on Coursera you can audit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
As
think
far
yes.
as it is not integrated with any of international university,
Yeah.
you can audit that course.
Okay. Okay. Then that's great. Because course Google has a very good comprehensive course out there. And then if you want to kind of do certifications, then these courses are. I mean, these free courses obviously are not going to be enough. Then you can probably go to Udemy for any. I mean, cloud courses which help you kind of prepare for exams.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say there is a platform called eCloud Guru. I haven't personally used it, but I have folks who have used it, which
Mm-hmm.
kind of has very good courses on all the three cloud services.
Okay.
So they have one of the best GCP course, if I'm not wrong. So Google Data Professional course. If you want to do that certification, then I think A Cloud Guru is has a very good content out there. And then you have a lot of people on YouTube that you can follow for data engineering. Then there is one person called as Zach Wilson. So he's a data engineer on in Airbnb. So he kind
Okay.
of does a lot of cool stuff on YouTube. You can follow him. One person that I would like to give a shout out is in terms of big data. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you have this guy called as Sumit Mittal. So he has its own. I've personally not used it, but I have heard a lot of good things about him. I am
Okay.
planning to take up his course. If you want to kind of learn big data to the core, maybe Spark, maybe Kafka, maybe AWS Glue, and if you want to learn from the start to the end, then what I have seen is I've personally checked his course content and I found it very exhaustive.
Okay.
So his company is Trendy Tech. Okay.
Trendy Tech.
Yeah. So if you Google Trendy Tech, he just has one course for big data. That's it. It's not that expensive. I think it's around 35 to 40,000. I mean, in terms of the content that he's covering, it's not expensive, but it's a comprehensive 6 months course. It's not a small course. So if you want to kind of learn the nitty gritty on the hard code, big data stuff, then probably he's the guy. Or else I would suggest, if to start off with, don't pay anything, just
Right.
try. There are a lot of stuff out there. Just try and see if it's good for you. If you feel that yes, this is something that I can work for, say, next 10-15 years, then it's worth enough to spend some money. I would
Right.
say suggest start with Udemy has a lot of courses with 500-600 rupees. If you want to learn Spark, start off over there. Or if you want to learn Spark, I would say rather than doing Udemy, just don't do Udemy, go to Databricks learning platform. So
Okay.
Databricks is a platform that is, or a company that is kind of uh, gives you a Spark managed cluster. Okay, you can kind of spin up a Spark cluster on AWS, Azure, or GCP.
Mm-hmm.
They provide their services, and the company name is Databricks. So they have comprehensive courses on their learning platform as well. So
Okay.
I mean, if you want to kind of go into hardcore data engineering through Databricks, they have a 36 hours course on their platform. So there are, if I'm not wrong, there are around 150 hours of course content on their platform.
Yeah, they
Uh,
have to both the courses, free courses and paid courses.
Paid courses as well. Yeah. So
So
go for
initial
free
stage,
courses.
free
Yeah,
courses would be a good
because the
idea for
paid
learner.
courses are very
Very expensive,
expensive,
yeah.
very expensive. Yeah.
Instructor led. Yeah,
Yeah, it's around $2,000 or so. So
yeah,
it's very expensive. So I would suggest not to go for it. Probably, if you want to do certification, and then check with your company if they're ready to pay.
yeah.
Only then
That's a
go.
good idea. Yeah,
Yeah, otherwise, because most of the companies nowadays, what they do
they
is,
are paying for
yeah,
upscaling your, yeah,
upscaling. Yeah.
yeah,
So no matter which exam you take, they'll pay for it.
yeah,
9 out of 10 companies will do,
yeah.
because of the market right now. They
It's
have to
quite
do it.
competitive market.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So every say month or two, there are new things that are added to, uh, every technology that's out there. So everyone is inventing, everyone is adding new options to their technology stack, and then you need to kind of keep on learning.
okay. So Divesh, actually, that was my actually the question, last question, where I wanted to know the three resources to learn data engineering
Yeah,
and how much time an individual required. Let's consider a fresher or a individual who is already having experience but not in data engineering, right? And
yeah,
he or she wanted to start a career. And I know every individual have their own expertise, their own challenges.
yeah,
Sometimes we need to choose the things which are quite hot in demand. And let's say a person wanted to select a data engineering as a career. Okay, so according to you, actually you have mentioned so many resources.
yeah,
So what we can do is we can put those resources in comment section. So if
yeah,
anybody wanted to go through those resources, they can have a list of the things, right?
yeah,
But according to you, an individual, I would not quote it as a fresher, but any individual who wanted to
yeah,
start a career in data engineering, let's not take AWS, Azure, or GCP or
yeah,
Cloudera into demand.
yeah.
Just say that he or she wanted to be a data engineer. How much time he or she should require, max and mean side, and what would be the skill set? You said SQL, data warehouse,
Yeah,
and then go for any of big data concept, and you go for cloud.
yeah,
How much time they should require, and this skill set are enough to get them job
yeah.
in
To
office
start
space?
off with, yeah, yeah. To start off with, so uh, I would say around. I mean, give a ballpark 6 to 8 months, but it depends from individual to individual
Yeah.
how good the grasping power is. I would say, I mean, with SQL, I think one of the best courses out there is on Udemy called SQL Bootcamp or something.
Okay.
I am not quite sure. I think that is the name.
Okay.
But SQL is of the utmost importance, I would say. Rather than concentrating on any tools or technologies, concentrate on the core things that drive that tool and technology.
Mm-hmm.
SQL, then data warehousing, you don't have to kind of do a course as such,
Okay.
because there are a lot of free tutorials out there on Edureka's website as well. Oh, sorry, on
Mm-hmm.
Edureka's YouTube channel as well,
Yeah.
which would help you understand what a data warehouse is. Data
Right.
warehouse is an old term now.
Mm-hmm.
People nowadays talk more in terms of data lake. So I
Okay.
would suggest, once you are comfortable with data warehousing fundamentals, just try and explore what is a data lake,
Mm-hmm.
how different it is from a data warehouse or a data mart. Okay, why did we have to coin a new term called as a data lake rather than continuing with an old term called as a data warehouse? So what is the difference? So those kind of things are something that I have seen mostly being asked in interviews, no
Mm-hmm.
matter which uh, I mean, how many years of experience you have, which background you come from. At least that is what we prefer to look in a candidate. Okay.
Okay.
And then probably you can start off with a little bit of Hive, Spark, and Python. I would say a month is okay to know the basics of it.
Okay.
Okay, and then probably you can put in a month or so in AWS, and then there is a course on AWS.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can ping you the course link, and you can add it to
Yeah,
the,
you can add it
yeah,
in the comment section. So
comment
Divesh, what you
section.
can do is you can create a
Yeah,
roadmap. for
Yeah, I can
anybody
do.
wanted to be a data engineer, and then we can work upon that roadmap and we can measure the success as well over there.
Yeah, yeah,
So if that sounds good to you, you can definitely do that and share that with us.
yeah. Sure, I'll do that. I do have a few resources with me, so what I'll do is I'll just integrate them in one single slide or something, and then
Yeah.
send it over to you. Yeah.
So,
So post that, probably once you are done with the AWS, then I think you don't even have to I mean complete the AWS course as such.
mhm,
But I mean, if you have, most of the companies right now, what I've seen is what they do is they kind of are looking for resources who are comfortable, very comfortable with SQL, I would say. If you are an experienced resource, and if
mhm,
you are not, even if you are not from a data engineering background, okay,
mhm,
uh, but you want to be treated as a experienced resource, in that case what we look for is a person who is very, very, very comfortable with SQL, knows how to kind of work around on the data engineering aspect with SQL, then data warehousing, data lake and stuff. And then most of the companies, once you are onboarded, do give you some time to kind of pick up with on one or the other cloud technologies,
right.
depending upon the project pipelines that they have.
Mhm,
So I would
yes.
suggest, if you have completed SQL, data warehouse, and data lake,
Mhm,
start building up a resume and
mhm,
then start searching. It's never too late to give an interview. It doesn't matter if you fail, because you
right.
learn something from every interview that you give. So I think you learn more from a failure than from a success, in terms, at least in terms of interviews.
Sure.
Because you kind of know which questions you kind of messed up with, so you can go back, learn, and see that, okay, these are the new things that I was not aware of, but these are predominantly being asked in interviews. Then probably you can then search for what kind of interview questions are being asked,
Mhm,
and it kind of depends from individual to individual. Sometimes you'll find a person who is kind of more into SQL, more into traditional concepts. Sometimes you'll find a person who is more into big data concepts,
okay.
and he'll not move towards the traditional SQL questions. Then probably you can also add a little bit of big data, but you can be very upfront about what you know, what you not know, do not know. What I would suggest is, do not put anything on your resume which you do not. So if you
Right.
put something on your resume and you are not quite confident on it, and if you get caught on that, that
Yeah.
kind of ruins the whole uh, uh, impression that you will have on the interview. So if you are good with SQL, if you're good with data warehouse, if you're good with traditional systems, just go with it. There are many companies out there who give you a chance
Yeah.
uh, to kind of come on board, learn new things, learn new technologies, and they are okay with spending efforts and on you to kind of upskill yourself after hiring you, rather than looking for candidates who are already
Already
there.
skilled. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So that's a great piece of advice, I would say. I was about to ask you what piece of advice you would like to give to the learner, but you gave that. That okay, you tell upfrontly, be honest about what you know,
yeah,
and put in your the plate, which you are have to offer to the recruiter, to the I would say hiring manager, and then
yeah,
you are good to go. You, of course, they'll spend a good amount of time, good amount of money on you to upskill. So thank you so much, Divesh. I would be, appreciate if you can, we're gonna share that roadmap along with
yeah,
that different resources.
yeah,
And if anyone would be having a questions query, they can put down in the comment section, and we will respond to their query as well. I
yeah,
would be
sure.
sharing your LinkedIn profile if somebody, most of the people, they wanted to know more about you, they wanted to have a look into your profile, they can definitely do that.
Yeah, sure.
And thank you so much, Divesh. Please accept our gratitude to be in our talk show and give the real insight about the data engineer, right? If somebody wanted to start a career in data engineering, they will get a realistic approach instead of getting the things in 5 minutes, 4 minutes. This is something, a realistic approach. If you wanted to get a job, you need to put that much efforts and then get a job, right? So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
really appreciate your time to come to our talk show. And thank you so much, Divesh.
Thanks for inviting me. Have a nice day.
Yeah. Have a
Bye.
nice day. Bye bye.